Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
The Gators Breakdown podcast is ready to go. I'm your host, David Waters. You can find me on social media at GatorDave_SEC. A little bit of a different episode tonight. Certainly different than the one this morning. Of course, coming on, talking Lane Kiffin, final days of decision. And lo and behold, during that episode, we get the news that Lane Kiffin would no longer consider Florida. It will be a LSU Ole Miss decision, and Florida is going to go ahead and move on to Jon Sumrall, maybe Jet Fish. Who knows beyond that? Been a whirlwind of a day, I can tell you that. I have the Gators Breakdown Plus chat off to the side as well. You can probably see some weird lights because I got Texas A&M off to the side of the TV right here. So trying to keep up with that game a little bit, trying to watch a little bit of football today, but certainly in the Discord a lot today, on social media a lot today. Phone calls, direct messages, all that stuff has been going on, rightfully so, on this crazy day. Is certainly looks like Lane Kiffin will not be the next Florida Gator head coach. So plenty to get into. Of course, with that, it will kind of be a longer intro than the normal part of the chat, but I know the chat has a lot to say. I know Gator Nation has a lot to say. We'll get to hear from some of them in just this avenue of it. So stand by, guys. It will, as I mentioned, kind of a warning if you're in the chat. It will be a little bit of a longer intro before I get to the chat, but certainly stay in if you can. But what a kick to the gut for this one. If you were all aboard the Lane train, certainly. I made my prediction this morning on the show, and while you probably could tell the confidence had waned a little bit, he was still going to be my pick to be the next Florida Gator head coach. Certainly turns out it won't be that way. It certainly won't be that way. So before we get started, just like always, I know you don't like the news, or most of you probably don't like the news. If you weren't on the Lane train, you're probably happy about this right now. But I think most of Gator Nation was. But at least like the work. I know probably could even feel astray a bit. As I said, you're only as good as your sources. So, if you felt like you were led astray by me right here on Gators Breakdown, all that, I get it. We'll get into that too. But it is, it is what it is. It sucks. But hopefully we'll move through it. But hit that like button if you like what we do right here on Gators Breakdown most of the time. Subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Of course, there'll be a lot more to get into. We've got a game tomorrow against Florida State, which is certainly fallen by the wayside. All the next steps in the coaching search, all that. Subscribe. You'll get updated right here on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform if you haven't done so yet. If you want to take part in the chat, you can join Gators Breakdown Plus. We'll get into that in just a second too. Link is in the description, gatorsbreakdownplus.com. Ad-free episodes of Gators Breakdown as well. So plenty to keep on with the conversation there. If you want to talk amongst Gator Nation in the Discord right there. It's been certainly on fire today. With everything going on as far as the Lane Kiffin saga. And one more time for the sponsors. Hey, maybe this can make you feel better a little bit. Now, I know some of you may feel a little down, feel a little bit of blue, but, I still think you can look good doing it. And if you're going to wear Gator gear, you go buy Gator gear anyway. Well, do it at Warner Safari. Big time supporter here, Gators Breakdown. $50 polos right now. Use my code, use my link. You get 10% more off. So Warner Safari, it's the way to go. It's the way to go if you want to look good for your Gator stuff. These polos, you ain't going to find them anywhere else. Looking really, really good. I wanted to bring these guys on board. Their selection of Gator polos. You just got to have them. You got to get your hands on them. Holiday season coming up. Put these under the tree. Feel like $100 shirt. You can get them for about half that price right now. You can afford a couple of them. All the sales go to support junior golf scholarships at Gator Junior Golf. And sales from these officially licensed products help local children's programs in the Florida community. So you won't find shirts better than this. Breathable comfort, subtle swagger. Get you from the tailgate to the tee box. Loving them right there. So click on the link in the description. Visit warnersafari.com/discount/Gators Breakdown and get 10% off your order. upping the value even more. One more time, link is in the description as well. All right. Yep, certainly we know what to get to. So behind the scenes, of course, we get we all know the news. No need to rehash the news now. I'm coming at you late in the day after an episode this morning about all this. But behind the scenes, Lane Kiffin, this announcement that Lane Kiffin was not going to consider Florida any longer caught me by surprise. Caught me by surprise because of where the info was coming from, of course. So many caught by surprise on this, given the info they were given by Florida administration of feeling pretty optimistic that this would get done. As I said earlier today, the silence did not have to mean Florida was getting Lane Kiffin. The silence out there brought out a narrative that Florida wasn't in it, and it certainly looks like that might be the case no matter when Kiffin makes the decision. There was silence out there, and it was sold as, hey, this is part of the plan. Some of this is going to happen. Well, looks like Florida won't be part of the final decision. The using turnkey and then with them working in silence, say, look, I think part of that was the plan. I think it maybe fell apart late. We'll get into that too. There's a lot of rumors out there of what happened, how it happened. We'll get into all that. But certainly no matter what, many were caught by surprise with this. Now, if you listen to Ole Miss and LSU sources and all that, maybe we shouldn't have been caught by surprise because they were telling us all week, huh? So credit to those guys that, I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to hear about it, but certainly many of them are into it. True or not, they look right. So we had our own narrative out there that the silence was better for Florida. Turned out may not be the case. We'll get to the other angle of this. I know the other rumor that this did fall apart late. We'll get into all of it. But for a lot of this, certainly got to be more cautious in following sources and such. But at the same time, this really could be Lane Kiffin changes his mind at the last minute, pulling the rug. Look at it from every angle here. Going back to today's earlier report from Zach Alberverdi and the erratic communication, I was told that too, but it was for all parties involved, not just Florida. But the erratic communication was on LSU's end, was on Ole Miss's end as well. That Jimmy Sexton, his agent, was getting a little frustrated due to lack of indecision. That come from a neutral source to me all week long and made sense in a way. Egg Bowl was coming up, had a football game. A lot more was coming out last week because Ole Miss was on a bye week. Moved to this week, a shortened week because the game on Friday. You had the Egg Bowl to prepare for. Thanksgiving this week, but I guess not. So take for what it's worth due to the wrong information this week. If you want to come at me, fine. It's fair. When you make a prediction and throw it out there, it's fair. I gotta stand in the paint here. I did try my best to never make it sound like it was a done deal. Even as much as I heard that, you guys didn't hear me put it out there. That was a lot of that behind the scenes. No. It wasn't a done deal with Lane Kiffin in Florida. I expressed concern as soon as the process started that the more Ole Miss kept winning, that could make things a little hairy. That if LSU ever got in the mix, that would make it even more difficult. Certainly learned that you're only as good as your sources. And these sources either were strung along a good bit or just were wrong. Either way, it doesn't matter. Lane Kiffin's not coming to Florida. Doesn't look like Lane Kiffin will be the next Florida Gator head coach. You guys know I don't live in the wannabe insider breaking news world. It's not why I got into this. That's not why I do it. But if I have info I think I can share, I will. And certainly with a coaching search, a lot of that's going to be out there. Certainly got to look like I need to be a little more cautious of that now, of course. I understand many of you look what I have to say, and a lot of that maybe more of opinion instead of inside info. But when I share something I'm confident in, it's certainly right for me to face criticism out there. I will certainly do it. Reputation is everything in this platform, so I hope I have not shaken that for you out there. And if I have, hopefully I can rebuild it. So there we go. If you feel astray by me, go ahead. I get it. This comes with the territory. Little did I know this territory would get as big as it did. people would want to know. But hey, it is what it is. I put it out there. I think Lane Kiffin's going to be Florida's next head coach. A lot of that was based on some intel. Turns out, certainly got to rethink that. Certainly got to rethink that. So I guess the next part is, how did we get here? How did we get here? Was it something that just fell apart late? Was it something that had been trending? Two sides to every story. One, of course, we go back to it. Florida wasn't really in it this week. All the confidence was fake and didn't exist like the LSU and the Ole Miss writers said. National writers started coming around with it a little bit more. Started asking behind the scenes, okay, what is this? Because it was a week ago when it started filtering out that, hey, there's going to be kind of this plan coming out that Florida's not going to look good for most of the week. And then toward the end of the week, you'll start you'll hear it's trending LSU, you'll hear it's trending Ole Miss. That's because there's going to be a lot of silence. They're not going to get a lot out of Florida. That's part of the plan. Okay. Well, if that's the case, many of us were just lied to. And just one angle of looking at it now. Just lied to of, keeping it from the Florida side, keeping it quiet. That those type of sources, maybe it was just a ploy. Maybe just a ploy. Well, it didn't turn out that way. Turns out trying to keep it secret, not really going to pay off. Trying to keep it secret so nobody knows what's going on. Okay. Maybe it was to keep it secret so they just don't know what the pivot is. That seems more likely the case now. So when we get to it, another angle to this, of course, just now, because it kind of surprised everybody, at least on the Florida side, of how this turned out. And as we get through the day, starts filtering out, okay, that maybe Lane Kiffin did have a change of mind. Or maybe there was a lot of, like I said, the indecision all throughout the week. Some things happened along the way. And one of them maybe being Florida didn't want to wait, which is just dumb if that's the case. Or maybe finally read the tea leaves that Lane wasn't coming. Or maybe Lane just straight up told Florida no last night or this morning. And that's why you're getting the flood of information today. There's a lot of Scott Strickland talk out there. And while it seems that, like Florida was willing to give Kiffin everything he wanted, there was that early sticking point that we discussed as far as Strickland wanting to keep a certain GM. And while that was resolved, and I fully believe it was, did it show what Kiffin could perceive as a lack of trust, since it was something that was brought up early on in the process? So as we get closer to decision day, did Kiffin find himself wondering if he could work with Scott Strickland? And now you have the booster angle with all this. That certainly came out this evening. I'm not going to hide behind it. It's all speculation, but it certainly came out. I can't ignore it. Can't dig my head in the sand. I know a lot of you have heard it out there, seen it out there. Boosters discussing basically saying Florida didn't want to wait, maybe due to the lack of communication and or indecision. From that angle, is it worth taking a risk on Lane Kiffin, not getting him? But to me, that would be a joke. If you waited it out this long, what's another day or two? What's another? What? It makes no sense to me. But here's the scenario if you want to lay it out. And I guess some are going to probably try and lay it out this way. Florida didn't want to wait on Lane Kiffin, so they pursue Jon Sumrall, as it looks like he's destined for Auburn. And he could be in the mix for the Ole Miss job, the LSU job, depending on what happens there with Lane Kiffin. So Scott, the administration, get nervous, waiting on Lane, or they find out he's staying at Ole Miss. So that leaves the LSU job open, where Sumrall could also be, in the running for that job. And the administration wants to get in front of it all. I think that's trying to save face somewhat. We either flat out were dragged along and Kiffin decided that he didn't want to work with Strickland, or the administration got a great feeling that he would tell us no and went ahead and made a move. Now it comes out that maybe there was this hard deadline while the decision timeline was still open. Well, if that's the case, and I think that's a fumble from the Florida administration, in my opinion. A hard decision timeline the morning of the Egg Bowl? Come on. I still think there was a chance to land Lane Kiffin since negotiations were still happening on this week. I would have let it play out because the rest of the options behind that, there's not a lot of separation. What are you really losing? Well, we might not get this next guy. There's no separation behind the guys behind Lane Kiffin. The names that we're hearing of Jon Sumrall, Jed Fish, Brent Key, other guys. There's really a lot of separation behind those guys where you just go ahead and walk away from the best candidate. It makes no sense. So on the surface, with all that out there, certainly doesn't seem like Strickland and or some of the boosters administration fell back on using the search firm and ended up doing their own thing anyway. That's the way it looks to me. It's the way it looks on the surface. May not be the case. Probably some speculation in there. But it's certain when everything that we're hearing coming out now, even more speculation, of course, of how this played out. Deadlines, not wanting to wait, maybe getting emotional about the decision. What the search firm supposed to help in that regard? They had been so quiet up to this point. We discussed it. What did the quiet mean? I tried to put it out there this week. It didn't have to mean positivity for Florida. Had been quiet up to this point. So, what makes a lot of this believable, because now you're really hearing the other options now. Obviously, Florida should have interviewed other candidates, and we're seeing why now. But maybe that was part of the silence. So didn't know the pivot, didn't know the next step, and it had nothing to do with Lane Kiffin. Because you can certainly defend that now. It started filtering out late yesterday from at least the Ole Miss side. Neil McCready coming out and saying, hey, watch out for Florida and Jon Sumrall, not Auburn. Maybe that was part of the quiet part. All right, well, we're going to pivot from Lane Kiffin. Let's not tell people who our next move is, because Auburn's thinking they're getting Jon Sumrall now. Some comments right here, right quick. J. Lad Deucer says, next coach has no chance, no money for a roster. Certainly going to be an angle to it. I mean, if you got booster support here, we'll see. But part of that, then you're right in some regard there. That's going to be one of my next topics, and then I'll get the chat going. Junior says, Discord has been great, although it's killed my work. You've been really measured throughout. Does this shock you? This is a terrible rug pull. The decision from Lane Kiffin doesn't shock me. Maybe how we got here is what would shock me. I still believe there were some negotiations going on this week. I don't think Lane Kiffin completely shut the door on Florida. I still think there was some talk going on. And if it turns out the way of, hey, here's a deadline, hey, we're going to go ahead and move on without getting a final answer from Kiffin because we're afraid we might lose out on the next guy, that would shock me. And it would shock me in the way of, that's just a terrible move. I guess it shouldn't shock me that it would be Florida doing that and putting us in that spot. Blue Collar Crabba says, screw Gary Chance. We'll see. That's where part of it comes out. Just when I mentioned the boosters and stuff, you guys know the whole Gary Condren rumor out there. If you're not, that's what we're talking about, of the booster ultimatum and the deadline and all that stuff out there. I can't hide behind it. I know it's out there. I'm saying it's speculation. I can't prove it. But of course, there was a space out there with another booster talking about, hey, this is what happened. That was taken down. The summary of it was basically there was a deadline given today for Lane Kiffin to make a decision about Florida. Didn't get it, and that's why everything started flooding out this morning. And then there was a post earlier this week where Gary said he liked the number 2 option more than he did the number 1 option, which I'm assuming Sumrall or somebody else is the number 2 more so than Lane Kiffin. Did that get back to Lane Kiffin? So there's a lot of speculation out there, but I can't hide behind it though. I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying it is true. I'm not saying it's not true. But with the talk, it's dominating the Discord right now. It's dominating message boards. It's dominating Twitter. I can't hide and say that conversation is not out there right now. I'm not going to. But what this shows, if we got that kind of information out there, certainly the search is going awry in some ways. And if you wanted to control the narrative, well, you know what now, Scott Strickland administration, you're not controlling the narrative. By not getting this done, you've lost control of the narrative. You've completely lost control of it. And that's the worrisome part. Because where does the support and alignment go from here? Because there weren't many candidates out there that were going to get the praise from Gator Nation after missing on Kiffin, no matter who it is. There were boosters and fans waiting to buy in, and it hinged on getting Lane Kiffin for this place to be where it had full resources moving forward. Now, I think to get some of those resources, it's going to be a wait-and-see approach. And maybe it turns out that the only alignment that matters is just the alignment at the top. While changes in the UAA are going to happen, does it really matter? With the stuff coming out that our biggest booster putting on message boards that Lane really isn't a top option, does that signal support and alignment to you? After putting in all the work to be on the doorstep, it's completely fumbled. It doesn't really matter to Reason anymore. You didn't get the job done when Lane Kiffin is the runaway number one candidate. I still believe something crazy happened as this came about pretty fast, at least from a Florida angle. And maybe I'm wrong there. Maybe I'm still hanging on to some of the sources that led me here. But the way this kind of came out this morning, that story makes some sense. That story makes some sense. Okay, Benjamin, and I'll get to the chat. Dave, you didn't botch the hire. No need to feel bad. Hey, look, granted, but I put a lot of responsibility on myself for this podcast. And I don't want anybody to feel like I led them astray. And maybe I don't. Maybe I didn't. I mean, some of your comments out there makes me think, hey, thanks for, the support right there. And maybe I didn't. I tried to share as much as I could. And I completely said, even with some of this, there is going to be a little bit of bias in this with what I'm hearing because obviously more of my sources are Florida. But I wasn't just putting out Florida information and I was getting it. I've been doing this podcast for almost 10 years now. I'm on the radio in Nashville with Bill King on Tuesdays. I have people reach out to me, neutral people who reach out to me and want to share information. It had nothing to do with Florida sources that some of them were hearing Florida. Hearing from Ole Miss staff that it's Florida. Hearing from other agents and in coaching circles that it's Florida. So I didn't want to just look at it from an orange and blue view. I did want to get neutral sources out there. And I'm not saying anybody else didn't want to either. But that's how I was going to approach it. All right, so try and balance this because it's live on YouTube. Everybody, thanks one more time. Hitting that like button if you don't mind. I'm going to go to the Discord. I told you guys right there it was going to be a long intro, so excuse me on that. But I'm going to get this going. Let me open it up over here. Got to figure out who was first. So, man, the chat goes back on this side a long ways too. Logan, you're up if you want to. There we go. Well, maybe. Can't hear you.
Oh, I didn't realize I had to push to talk. My bad.
Oh, there we go.
Can you hear me now?
Gotcha.
I'd say a huge problem is he's just getting no support off the get-go. Sumrall, that is, and just really hard position for him to walk into.
It really is. It really is. And look, I mean, this is not a surprise. I mean, this was likely going to be the reaction if it wasn't Lane Kiffin. And
Well,
it sucks to say.
I think someone like Lincoln Riley, though, and if they say they vetted him, whatever, if Gary didn't like him, so we can't get him. But man, yeah, I don't. He's gonna somehow have to win 8 or 9 the first year to gain any support.
Yeah, that's the worry. Like I said, that's the worry part of this is now it's just going to be a lot of wait and see before full buy-in. I mean, for the way I would judge it, you're gonna get 2 years before. Like I always will say, first years are weird. So whenever we get to that point, it's going to be weird. It can be good, it can be bad. May not mean anything in the long run. First years are always bad, or not always bad. First years are always weird, and then we go from there. But certainly, just a punch to the gut. But I do, we'll get to it, and then we'll look at Jon Sumrall. Everybody will do some digging in. They'll pick out some good things. They'll pick out some bad things of why this could work out, why it won't work out. And then as time goes by, there'll be some support. It'll just naturally happen. But
I mean, I don't think he would. It wasn't. He's not a bad coach. It's just when you go from Lane Kiffin to him,
right? Yep. And so many have their heart set on what will end up now. At least when you start putting tiers together in college football, and top 5, top 7 coach in the game of college football right now. And you thought you had him, thought you were close to having him, only for it to come crashing down, and now having to settle. And that's what it's going to look like. Like I said, don't come back and say this was our top option all along. Ain't nobody believing that. Nobody.
What do you think Lane stays or goes to LSU?
I have no idea.
Hopefully he stays.
Do you know the 12 candidates Zach mentioned? I'm sure we know the few, but that seemed like an awful lot. That article said that we had already interviewed over 12 candidates, and yet somehow we end up on Sumrall. It still just makes no sense to me. And like I said, we vetted Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, maybe.
And we chose Sumrall over Lincoln Riley.
I guess maybe the vetting wasn't good. I mean, that's the only thing I can come out with that. I mean, some of the names I think are some that we've discussed all throughout the last few weeks. Lane, obviously Sumrall, Clark Lee. It came out today. I think probably Jed Fish, Brom, Key. I mean, there's half of them right there.
We missed out on Franklin by slow playing it.
Maybe Dillingham, Franklin. I think the interview process probably goes back quite a bit. So there's like 8 names out there. I don't know.
I think it just shows
maybe an NFL guy too that was on. I don't know.
Strickland obviously I don't know. I ain't gonna say he doesn't care, but we desperately needed an offensive powerhouse.
I mean, that's the thing when you look at this, everybody looks at what kind of coach you need, and we've always said, when this hire started, don't get somebody who understands Florida and make Florida, not this, slow prodding conservative offense, not playing in a box, not trying to make Florida Alabama, not trying to make Florida Georgia, make Florida. You recruit and use speed. And is that what we're going to get here?
No, we're not. I mean, I don't think we are.
I mean,
he's 15-1 in 1-score games, so that shows you he's
Billy Napier.
Like Billy.
That's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot of 1-score games. A lot of 1-score games.
And you ain't winning that much 1-score games in the SEC.
Yeah, I don't think so. But Florida's tried it. Florida's tried it with the DC. A coordinator guy like Muschamp didn't work. We tried the G5 up and comer, McElwain, Napier. McElwain, former SEC coordinator. That didn't work.
Let's combine them. Let's combine them both. No, that's going to work.
I mean, admittedly, of course, we all know Mullen was the best. As close to, that's as close to success as we've gotten. Someone that knew the expectation, someone that knew the SEC, but obviously couldn't sustain it. I still think it was the right move to move on, no matter what happens afterwards. I mean, people can say foolish and all that stuff. Okay, sure. But Florida wasn't winning a championship with him either, so you go and try and chase one. And maybe it puts you in a deeper hole. That's where Florida is right now.
Is that what we're doing? Chasing a championship now with Sumrall? I'm sorry. I'm going to be a little negative this hire until somebody gives me a good reason not to be. I'm just floored that this is the choice.
I have heard he's good friends with Blake Baker. Ryan, there's you something positive.
Not really.
He's probably going to Tulane to be the head coach.
That would be weird if his name is up for the DC job for Florida, but he'd end up taking the job from after Sumrall leaves. That would be weird.
I can see it happening.
All right. Let me get through some more here and then have to get off. Go spend some time with some family. I knew this was going to be a little bit long. Let me see. I think Sorax was in here for a while. I can't find the order from the chat now. Sorax, if he's still in here.
Hey, Dave.
What's up, man? Long time.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I used to be on chats pretty regularly, but it's been a while.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a day.
It has been, man. Keeping up with
I remember, yeah, for sure. I for some reason it has me going back and being like, man, when did you start this whole thing? And I'm like, oh man, I remember being on a chat, or maybe it was just typing then. But when Jacob Copeland committed to Florida, do you remember that?
I do remember that. That was an odd moment.
Yeah, it was out of nowhere, but it was it was a high at the time. It was like, whoa, okay, something's happening. And here we are. So, yeah. So Earth has a way of bringing you back down. Yeah, I don't. I will say one thing is I think the fans and everyone, I get why Lane Kiffin is such a desirable hire. Like, for one, I think his personality, especially at this time, just seems like a great fit.
Yeah.
But I mean, you've said it many times. Like, he's no guarantee. Like, he wasn't inherently going to be the guy that got us our next championship or anything like that. Like, you never know it. There's so much risk or trade-offs on one side or another. So I'm certainly not the guy to say, like, I think the program's going up after this. In fact, quite the opposite. But you never know.
Yeah, I mean, there's hires out there that a lot of people didn't think would work. I mean, I don't know for sure. It's just, where did we feel like the best chance was? And I think that's where a lot of us fall back on. And like, if you were to go to Vegas and play the odds, that would be the odds you play.
Absolutely. And the energy, man, that's valuable. Just getting the whole fan base excited.
Yep. That was a big part.
Sort of thing.
That was a big part.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, from my perspective, if I was AD, let's all play that game. The way that things are going, just overall bigger picture, is the NCAA is more the NFL minors than it's ever been. So I'd be kind of on that strategizing. So I think the front of the house becomes more and more important as we go along. So, there was a part of me that when we were talking about $15 million a year, 10-year contracts and everything, I was thinking like, damn, we're really tapping ourselves out to get this guy. So he better be kind of surefire. Where I think like building up a more structure in the front of the house, getting a GM on board, getting, a people under him that are doing the recruiting and the negotiating, so that, like, you know, and in the future too, if you did build that structure out, you could swap out coaches if they weren't successful.
Yeah.
With much less interference. So I think there's a lot of value there. So I hope that's been considered, but given the news, man, it really seems like they're a bunch of chickens with their heads off. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, and going to your point, and I mentioned, earlier the offensive coordinator hire was going to be, if it is Sumrall, the most important hire. But let's not forget GM as well. What's that going to look like? Like I said, maybe it was a sticking point early in the discussions between Strickland and Kiffin, and was supposed to be resolved, and maybe that did show some kind of sign of trust down the road when Lane Kiffin was coming to make this decision. But at the same time, we do have to look at the GM side of this and how important it is in college football now. What does it look like? What does the staff support look like now? What is, with, as you said, going to go now save some money, at least on the head coaching salary. So can you build up a great support staff to go along with that? And look, that might sound rinse and repeat for the Army that Billy Napier was supposed to have, and make this big difference. But, certainly, when you look at this, and maybe one of the first missteps for Napier was bringing on so many of the Louisiana guys with him and trying to make those guys work. And then obviously being his own offensive coordinator. Sumrall, I don't know about his, structure of, calling defense and what the defensive coordinator does under him and how integral he is in that part of it. But obviously, the offensive coordinator hire is going to be the most important, the biggest hire he makes. But GM for sure. The structure there, I'd be interested to see. Is it more of a money side GM? Is it the player personnel side GM, and how that goes? But obviously, you're going to have both. But yeah, I guess just as far as the title goes, what is the responsibility of that person? But
yeah, and it feels like, at least to me, strategically long term, there should be more responsibilities transitioning to GM, where it felt like under Napier he was just one more title that had, some ancillary role that no one could clearly define. I don't know if that's entirely true, but that's what I perceived it as. You know what I mean?
Certainly would like some clarity.
Well, oh my God, yes. Jesus, I'm so sick of press conferences where you talk and say absolutely nothing. It's a freaking game at the end of the day. Just be clear with us. Why is this such a covert operation at all times?
Yeah.
It just boggles me, man. It's just self-serious in a way that I find obnoxious.
Obnoxious, man. That's been it lately.
Oh yeah, this whole thing. But we'll see where it goes. I mean, I don't know the validity to what everything that Casey said or didn't say, but we'll see. He'll be able to be proven or validated pretty quickly if his timeline plays out, and the DC and the offensive coordinator fall into line and everything in the same way. So we'll know. We'll be curious. I mean, to be fair to Conrad, $15 million buys you a lot.
Yeah,
I guess, if you're going to spend it on football. So we can't pretend that isn't a thing.
Just seemed like so close, but maybe we really weren't.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, will you ever get the real story written, you think?
I don't know. I'll chase around on my end, see what we can all piece together. But, I don't know if anybody official will ever speak of it. I mean, the first time we'll get is whenever a press conference happens of hiring a new coach.
Right. But that will all be fluff.
Yeah, that'd be fluff. Yeah. That'd be AD speak and coach speak and stuff like that.
God, I don't ever want to hear Scott Strickland talk at a press conference ever again. I don't need it.
Well, there'll be one coming up.
He's not going to say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let me get a few more in here, or a couple more in here, and I've got to go.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Happy holidays.
You too, man. We bring John in here, and then Kurtzman, and then that will be it, guys. All right, John, if you're in here.
What's going on, babe?
Hey, man.
I'm not gonna beat the dead horse too much. I do got a question. Who are the rumored assistant coaches with this Sumrall hire? I didn't catch those.
I haven't seen the list. I mean, I've been in here in the Discord trying to get ready for this episode and chat with you guys too, and trying to watch football. I got family in town and all that stuff too. It's been a juggling act for me. I think it was said earlier, Blake Baker, maybe a rumored name for DC. Weiss Jr. was brought up, OC. Maybe Cade Bell, Pitt's offensive coordinator, of course, Kerwin Bell's son. That's all I've heard as far as, and that I don't even know how serious that was. Like I said, it was just names that have just honestly have flown by me. I haven't went deep into anything as far as that regard.
I think two of those names would get better reception if they were told if we were told they were going to be the head coach. It just doesn't make sense. I don't know how you jump straight from Kiffin to Sumrall. It doesn't make any sense at all. I just don't understand it.
A lot of people feel that way, man. I mean, like I said, when you have the search firm, and then there was a thought, of course, when all this got started, it would be an offensive coach. It would be somebody who has some Power 4 experience. All that seemed to go by the wayside for whatever reason. Now, Scott Strickland never said that. I know a lot of people thought he said that in his Billy Napier firing press conference. He never said that. But, of course, asking around what's the thought process going to be in the next head coach, that was something that was out there. That it would be somebody with Power 4 experience. It was because of what we just went through with Billy Napier. Coordinators likely won't happen, all that stuff. And here we are. So certainly sounds like to me the search firm just wasn't used at its full.
It was ignored.
Yeah, it was ignored. Not that it wasn't used. Better way to put it. Ignored.
Well, I mean, so UF is on the precipice of being left in dirt while obviously the land of college football is being cultivated into something new. And here it is that we're just not in a position, if let's just, for giggles, let's say the previous coach was, here for a long term, had things going good, and we could afford to take a chance. But we're obviously not in that position. We needed something that was going to get things going in a good gravitational pull where, a big hire was going to attract the right names and the right kind of support. All this. I don't need to say that. So, but with that being said, the Sumrall hire is not that. And, it seems as if he's Billy 2.0 coming out of that conference. And then we'd say, oh, well, he won. He's 15-1 in one-score games. And while that sounds great and everything, I'm just trying to figure out why you're in 15 one-score games in the first place. That's exactly what's not needed here.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, a lot of people are going to think it's more of the same, and that's the worrisome part. I mean, obviously, probably even on my own end, give the guy more of a chance. Whether it ends up being him, whether it ends up being somebody else. But when you set yourself up like this, there's I'm talking to myself as well. There's going to be some disappointment. And
well, Dave, I'm gonna keep this short so you can move on to the next guy. I just want to say at this point, reading through the chat earlier, one of the other members was making a good point, and I think it's something that we've all kind of said before, but we weren't really leaning towards that because we were all stuck on trying to get the big name hire, and rightfully so. But at this point, while no, I don't want Sumrall, and I guess if he did get the right people around him, it could be successful. I don't know about. I guess on one hand, it's like, well, if you don't get a hire like Lane, then you're automatically going to lose a lot of support. But then on the other hand, if you do go a cheap route, it's all more reason why you got to have the support in order for it to work because they're walking into a dead situation. But, you could go hire the likes of a Jed Fish at this point, an Alex Golish, or a coordinator, Stein, Schumann, somebody like that, pay them 6 or 7 million a year, then go spend millions on the absolute best coordinators that money could buy, and then go sink 30 million in NIL money and work. It could absolutely work. I think that would actually work. I wouldn't have a problem with it as long as it was structured the right way. But but that none of that still changes the fact of how this situation was handled at the last minute. But to make this immediate jump to Jon Sumrall, I know you said you weren't going to be out of your pitchfork, but I will tell you, when the coaches get hired, they're gone eventually. When the players come, they're gone eventually. And the same fans that are here still every year, buying the tickets, paying for the TV, paying, to show up and supporting this program over and over again deserve better. And I'm grateful for the people who spend their millions of dollars to support the program. I would never be able to contribute anything like that. But in the same time, they seem to be the same ones sabotaging it. And we were under the impression that, this hire would not be solely on Scott Strickland, and we thought that was going to be a good thing. Well, somehow, the one time when we get all the alignment, it bites us in the ass. And I have a problem with it altogether. I don't even know where to begin. I'm completely baffled. I feel like the Washington Redskins or the Browns or something right now. It seems like it's a land of unforgiving treachery. It just never ends.
Well said, man. Well said. I think you speak a lot for the fan base right there.
So, all right, man. I'll let's move on to someone else. You can say whatever you want or whoever else at that. I appreciate you.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, man.
Bring Kurtzman in here, and I will call it an episode.
Hey, Dave, can you hear me okay?
I got you.
All right. Hey, say hi to my buddy. I think you might see him tomorrow, Mike Agus.
Oh, yeah, Mike. Yeah.
Yeah. Mike and I text all the time.
Okay.
So good dude.
Yep,
I check him out on the road. We're a lot of Tampa sports fans. Yeah, we usually see each other in the summer on the road watching some Rays games.
Okay, sat with him last couple of years at Florida, Georgia, and then stopped by the tent on the way to the stadium a lot of the times.
Yeah, he's a good dude. Tell him hi for me.
For sure.
I was gonna get down this year, but I was like, after the product, I was like, I don't think so. I was on my way back from Disneyland this morning when the news all broke, and I had my son in the backseat. I'm like, just read me text messages and alerts that you see through my phone. I got to know what's going on. So I was like, this is my wife's like, what's wrong? Is it work stuff? I was like, no, Gator football is dying today.
So you went from the happiest place on earth to one of the saddest places on earth right now.
Exactly. Yeah. So listen, I guess I guess we should bring Jaden Rashada back at this point. He's got some eligibility. Let's just bring it all back together and head down. How serious was Golish as a candidate? And the only reason I prefer him was at this point we're going down the G5 route. It's Scott's the issue. We all know that. Look, he's brought this program down to a level we thought we'd never see it at too, until he's removed as that. But I'm just curious, like based on what how serious was Golish? Just because he is an SEC coordinator. He does have state of the Florida ties as far as recruiting. I thought if you really wanted to go all the way down, and all those names were not going to come, I just wasn't sure how serious he was as a candidate. I didn't
hear his name a lot until today. Well, and I wouldn't even say a lot. It was just put out there. I forget who put it out there as a report. I think the Athletic, maybe. I didn't see him on threes, or I forget the other national one out there, but I did see it on the national one. That's the first I've really heard of it, honestly. So I'd be more for it than I would just because I want an offensive guy. That's not a shot at Sumrall or anything. I just want an offensive guy. I would be more for it. Yeah.
But right now, obviously, when you keep having losing seasons and this kind of level, this is the result you're going to get, unfortunately. And then when you have incompetency, it's head of it too. And I agree that you do need a GM that runs it like an NFL. I do have a close friend of our family. He's the GM for Notre Dame football, and he came originally from the NFL. He worked for the Lions. He worked for Carolina. He worked for Houston too. So, he comes from that NFL background. So you do need guys with that type of background. So I agree that the GM needs to play more of a NFL type of role in these programs. So, and they need to be the ones that have that experience too. So I think that's going to be more the future of them truly running the program versus the AD, and hopefully you get that down the road. But just in general, Dave, no one's mad at you. I think you do a great job. I wish I can get on here more often. Sometimes with the time difference being out west, I can't get on all the time, but I just want to say my appreciation. I love the Discord. I love the chatter. It's entertaining, especially this season, as bad as it's been. Like, the Discord has been the place to entertain yourself during some bad football games. But, I'll make it short. So we love your work.
Thanks, therapy
listen,
session.
you put yourself on you put yourself out there. At least you put yourself out there. You know what? There's some people that go back and forth and no one ever commit to it. No one cares. Like, it's not your fault. No, you didn't do anything wrong. It's Scott, the boosters, all that screwed this situation up. You're just doing your job. I just wish for you, honestly, as for someone who's got their own little business here, Lane would have been good for business for you, and I feel bad for that more so for you. I know the search has helped boost the Discord and people and enjoying it, and I'm glad I'm a part of it. But I was just hoping it for your sake too. It would have just jumped more people for your business too. So I hope everybody sticks in. But Dave, no one's mad at you. You're a great dude. Go enjoy your family tonight. Let's beat FSU's tomorrow and get a win, and then we'll go from there. And maybe someone will write a book about the search one day.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thanks for the kind words, man. Absolutely. Glad for all y'all support in here and Gators Breakdown Plus. And hey, look, I mean, yeah, it's going to your point about being good for business. It would have been, but winning is good for business. And that's ultimately what I haven't been able to cover a whole lot of it since I started Gators Breakdown.
Winning is the best perfume that will cover up any stink.
It is for sure. And hey, look, it's just kind of the way people will joke and say, well, Florida hasn't been good since you started a podcast. Well, you know what? Most people started podcasting like 2016, 17, 18, if you've been doing it for a while. So believe me, I wouldn't be the only podcaster out there, fan out there that started a podcast around that time and their team has been bad since, because that's just, it's not like podcasts have been going on for like really like 20, 30 years or anything like that. So it's just the way it's timed out. But yeah, we haven't.
It is what it is, man. You can't control what happens on the field.
Yeah, exactly. I don't believe in all that.
Maybe let you get a free play call in once a year. Right? That should happen, right?
Maybe.
Once a year, you get to call one play.
Just don't give me 3rd and 21, or if you do, I promise it won't be a run. I mean, just.
All right, man. Go enjoy your family. I'll let you go.
All right. Thank y'all, everybody. Sorry for the technical hiccup earlier where everybody out there on the YouTube or Twitter or whatever missed some of what was being said on the Discord side of things. I will take a look at it after this, but it probably isn't there since you guys weren't hearing it. I'll see if there's any way I can pick it back up. I don't think so. Discord doesn't record it. So I'm going to have to stitch together. So some of it may sound a little weird. Wherever I pick up the edit portion of this, so this means more work tonight before I can go to bed and get ready for the game tomorrow. But oh well, it happens. Kind of like today, it just happens. But anyway, thanks everybody. Thanks for hopping in. Late night turns into a later night episode right here on Gators Breakdown. We will see what Saturday holds for us, what Sunday holds for us. Should be an eventful next couple of days, few days. We'll see where it all goes right here for the Gators. Lane Kiffin, Jon Sumrall, whoever it might be for Florida. We'll see in the next couple or few days. Florida State. Very, very slim margins here. Florida favored by 1 at home versus Florida State, over under a 49.5. But the Gators at home, as bad as Florida's playing, only favored by a point. So take that neutral site, and likely Florida State would be favored. But at home, Gators -1. And guys, if you want to bet that game, if you want to go bet rivalry week, the NFL, all that action, you can do it at MyBookie. Use our promo code Gators. One account, one wallet, bet football all weekend. Then you can spend some time in their casino games. You can hit the slots. You don't have to switch apps. You don't have to jump to another platform. Just straight up action right there at MyBookie. Even more on the NFL side of things, where you can get into their NFL Super Contest and their survivor pools. Go bet it all at MyBookie. It's your one-stop sports book and casino in one. If you're new to MyBookie, use our promo code Gators and get your first bet up to $500 fully covered. You make your play. If it doesn't hit, you get it right back with the bet back bonus. So sign up at mybookie.ag with promo code Gators and claim your bet back bonus. All right, let's get to it. Florida State. Yes, there is still a game to play. As ugly as it could be. Florida State. It is not pretty at all. CFBgraphs.com helping us with the graphics right here. Their advanced stats preview have a projected score of Florida State 29, Florida 20. FSU with a 66.4 win probability. So let's take a look at the Florida State side of things. You guys caught up with them. Of course, started the season with a win over Alabama, and now going to end the season against the Gators. Bookending the season with 2 SEC opponents. Coming off, some losses, of course, but looking at the Seminole offense, let's go through it. I didn't have it pulled up, but let's go through their season right quick. Because it's just been calamity of errors for them. Games they should have won, but lost. Like I said, 31-17 to start the season off against Alabama in that win. 77-3 versus East Texas A&M. 66-10 versus Kent State. And it was, okay, maybe FSU has figured out some things. Beat Bama in game one, and then they're putting up almost 80 points, then almost 70 points. And then they take their first road trip of the season. And then have a double overtime loss against Virginia, which Virginia ended up being better than many thought. But it was a 46-38 double overtime loss to Virginia. And then lost to Miami. Then lost to Pittsburgh. Then lost to Stanford. So after 3 straight wins to open up the season, 4 straight losses for the Seminoles. Then they pick it back up with a 42-7 win versus Wake Forest. That put them at 4-4 on the year. Then a loss 24-10 to Clemson. At Clemson, beat Georgia Tech, or beat Virginia Tech 34-14 to get to 5-5, and then lost last week 21-11 against NC State with just a calamity of errors on special teams late in that game. So Seminoles come in 5-6 on the season, looking to get bowl eligible. Let's go to their offense first. Seminoles have topped 400 yards of total offense in 8 games this season. Florida State gained 431 versus Virginia Tech, 421 versus Wake Forest, 444 at Stanford, 415 versus Pitt, 404 versus Miami, 514 at Virginia, then 775 yards against Kent State, 729 versus East Texas A&M. So we worked backwards there. And obviously, over 400 yards in 8 games, that's pretty good. Pretty good offense. They're a pretty good offense here. I'm not going to shy away from their offense. Their offensive success rate, 31st in the country, 46.8%. But, of course, the 775 against Kent State, 729 versus East Texas A&M. Okay. Cupcake City, lots of yards racked up there. But that's why you go to the success rate, and they're still 31st in the country. The Seminoles' total yards are the most allowed this season by Wake Forest, Miami, Virginia, Kent State, and East Texas A&M. So you put that feather in your cap. Nobody has put more on the Wake Forest defense, a Miami defense, or a Virginia defense than the Seminoles have. So if you look at that 400-yard marker, Florida's given up over 400 yards to Texas A&M, Mississippi State, Kentucky, Ole Miss, and Tennessee. So basically, since the Texas A&M game, the only team not to get over 400 total yards is Georgia with 361. So pretty safe bet. Florida State's getting their 400 yards in this game. Florida State boasts one of the nation's most explosive offenses, leading the ACC and ranking top 15 nationally in plays of 10-plus yards with 180. They're 14th in that category. 30-plus yards with 37. They're 3rd in that category. And 40-plus yards are 19th. That's good for 8th. Or they're 19 40-plus yards plays. That's good for 8th. FSU also ranks 2nd in the ACC and top 10 in the country in plays of 50-plus yards, 60-plus yards, and 80-plus yards. So 2nd in the ACC and top 10 in the country in plays of 50-plus yards, 60-plus yards, and 80-plus yards. Florida State ranks in the top 5 in the country in passes of 30-plus yards. So explosive in the passing game. Top 5 in the country in passes of 30-plus yards, 40-plus yards, 50-plus yards, and 60-plus yards. FSU ranks first in the ACC and sixth in the country in rushing plays of 10-plus yards. So sixth in the country in rushing plays of at least 10 yards with 80 of them. So an explosive offense here. Tommy Castellanos ranks first in the nation with an average of 15.4 yards per completion. One more time. Castellanos, first in the country with an average of 15.4 yards per completion. Leads the ACC in completions of 30-plus yards, 40-plus yards, 50-plus yards, 60-plus yards. And his average of 8.97 yards per pass leads the ACC in 15th nationally. So that's per pass, but per completion, 15.46. So down the field, when they're passing, it's down the field. Definitely not consistent. Not a consistent offense. But when they are hitting plays, pretty explosive doing so. Castellanos, 8 rushing touchdowns are tied for a team lead and are a new FSU single-season record for rushing touchdowns by a quarterback. All right, so who he's throwing to? Biletnikoff Award semifinalist Deuce Robinson. Of course, he leads the ACC in total receiving yards, 1,021. He's sixth nationally there. Receiving yards per game, 92.8, sixth there as well. And receiving touchdowns, 6. That's 35th in the country. His 5 games with at least 120 receiving yards are tied for the most among Power 4 receivers. And he ranks second in the conference, only trailing teammate Makai Danzy's average of 22.7 yards per catch. That's second in the country. So you can see, it's a pretty explosive offense for Florida State. Not consistent, one more time, but definitely explosive. Danzy leads the country in plays of 50-plus yards with 6. You got to watch him on the ground as well. But more back on Deuce Robinson. Leads Florida State with 53 catches, 1,021 yards, 6 receiving touchdowns. He's Florida State's second Biletnikoff Award semifinalist in the past 3 seasons. Go back to Keon Coleman in 2023. Robinson leads the ACC in 20-yard and 30-yard receptions. So just got to watch the explosiveness. Keep Castellanos in the pocket as much as possible. And if a lot of teams haven't been able to do this, if you can control Deuce Robinson, then of course it's going to put their offense in the bind. If you go to Florida, you can see it on the chart here as well. Combining 4th and 3rd down conversion, FSU's conversion efficiency of 61.2% is first in the ACC and 5th nationally. And success rate is 8th. But just the pure conversion side of this, 5th nationally, first in the ACC. So 3rd and 4th down conversions, watch them for Florida State. Florida not too good there on defense. As far as success, 122nd in the country. Another thing to look out for, Florida State has not allowed a sack in their last 2 games against Virginia Tech and NC State. Going to the run game, Malzahn, of course, is the OC there, Gus Malzahn. Run game ranks at 11th nationally, leads the ACC with 223.4 rushing yards per game. FSU 6th nationally, first in the ACC with 80 runs of 10 yards or more. Florida has given up over 200 yards on the ground in 3 straight games. That's the only 3 games they've done it. In the last 3 games, not great on the ground for the Gator defense. Kentucky, Ole Miss, and then last week as well. Oof. Got to get it fixed. Against Power 4 competition, the Noles ran for over 200 against Bama with 230, 256 versus Virginia, 237 Virginia Tech. So last week against Tennessee, week before that, Ole Miss, week before that, Kentucky. Florida giving up 200 yards on the ground. Noles have done it a few times this season. Florida State has outgained its opponents by at least 40 yards 10 times this season. That's the most in the country. And tied their 2013 Florida State team with 13 times. But it's the most at Florida State since 2013. They did it 13 times that year where they outgained their opponent at least 40 yards. They did it 10 times this year. The 2013 team did it 13 times. All right, so Gus Malzahn offense. We know the key to victory. I've mentioned it earlier just a bit. Stop the run. Can't stop the run. This one gets much harder to win. Stop it. You make Castellanos beat you with his arms. With explosive plays, he can. Florida's safe defense this year. Bend, don't break. Conservative defense. Too high. Maybe it plays out well here for the Gators. Castellanos certainly can make some plays with those legs. Will make some, more than likely. Limit those where you can. But it's going to be about the explosive plays here, I think. Now, teams have been able to march up and down on Florida, especially because they've been able to run the ball in these last few games. So control the run, don't give up explosives. That's really the key to this one. Can Castellanos be consistent enough in the passing game, Dinkin and Duncan, having to settle, make him settle? Tennessee was able to do it a good bit. They didn't hit many explosives last week. Their offense built in a lot of ways on explosive ability. Florida staying too high a lot. Tennessee was able to nickel and dime. Tennessee was able to march down the field. I think that's got to be the plan for Florida State to win this one. On defense for the Noles, it starts with Darrell Jackson Jr. He's made 24 consecutive starts, 37 career starts, both most among FSU's defense, as far as consecutive starts go and career starts. For his career, 123 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks, 2 pass breakups, 1 forced fumble. A little bit of a fall off this year. Only 1 sack this season. Of course, a lot of people know he's the guy to look out for. Game plans around him. Darrell Jackson's still a really good player. It's a true freshman that's standing out so far on the defensive line for the Seminoles. Mandrell Desir, 1 sack in 4 consecutive games. That's the longest streak for a Seminole since Josh Sweat had at least 1 in the final 3 games of the 2016. The final 3 games of 2016 and the 2017 opener for the Seminoles. Mandrell leads Florida State with 6 sacks, 7 tackles for loss as a true freshman. 4-yard sack against Virginia Tech was a forced fumble recovered by Blake Nicholson. It was the first forced fumble of Mandrell's career. His 6 sacks and 7 tackles for loss are the most among ACC freshmen and the most for a Seminole true freshman since current New York Giant Brian Burns. He had 9.5 in 2016. Mandrell's sack totals ranked 3rd nationally among true freshmen. And his tackle for loss total is 5th. Oh, excuse me, guys. Thought I had to sneeze there. So here we go. Florida State ranks 30th nationally and 4th in the ACC with 11 interceptions. FSU's 7 more interceptions than 2024 is the 8th best improvement in the country and tops in the ACC. Earl Little Jr. leads FSU with 4 interceptions, including a 3-game stretch with an interception. That's good for 3rd in the ACC. So they're causing interceptions. Can DJ Lagway have a clean game here? What have we seen this year with DJ Lagway? If it's a clean game, there's not a lot down the field. There's no explosives. So it's going to be checks and balances here for this Gator defense, or this Gator offense, with a Florida State defense that can turn the quarterback over. Interesting chess match there. How aggressive can you be with DJ Lagway? Because of a proven FSU defense that can cause some interceptions. Little, going back to him, is one of 2 players in the ACC with at least 60 tackles and 4 interceptions. Little's tackles interceptions, and 2 forced fumbles lead the team. Going for FSU as well, Jerry Wilson's 3 interceptions, ranked 6th in the ACC. So for me, with that caveat, is run Jaden Ball into the ground. Rely on last game of the season, run him into the ground, rely on him, and then hope. Just hit some big passes in the passing game. There's nowhere near enough consistency to march down the field with this passing game. And then end the drive in a touchdown. Run your way to the end zone and or big play your way into the end zone. The conservative approach in the passing game, it doesn't work. It won't work. We've seen the dinking and the dunking. So there's a fine line of what you do with DJ Lagway in this game as far as game plan goes. How much do you press the issue with his, at times, turnover-prone games, bad decisions, bad throws, against a defense that can turn you over? How aggressive do you be with him? See what he can do on the ground one more time. Certainly has been an aspect of this offense that has come along in the last few games. Hasn't amounted to wins. But this is the worst. I mean, Kentucky was looking pretty bad when Florida went in that game and just got slaughtered. We've seen the roller coaster. Even in the losses, look better versus Georgia than you did against Kentucky the next week. Then look better versus Ole Miss, even in a loss, compared to what you look like against Tennessee. Is this another rise to the top of the roller coaster paired with the worst team in this 4-game stretch? There with Kentucky as well, as far as Florida State goes. So can you pair the rise back up in the roller coaster to playing a bad team? Last game of the season, at home, senior day, all that stuff. What does it amount to anything? It's a rivalry game, so I don't think there's going to be some emotion. How long does emotion last? Last week, Tennessee was able to jump on you pretty quick, take your mindset out of the game. I don't know if Florida State can do the same, but if they do, I'd predict very similar to what we saw last week against Tennessee. Florida's got to just stay in this game and then have a chance to win it at the end. You get down big, I don't see a comeback. Keep the emotion into the game as long as possible. Both teams are bad here. Hard to get a read on this game. Some of the things FSU is good at, I think, are some bad matchups for Florida. Hard for me to really measure the explosiveness of FSU's offense because Florida can limit those in some regard. We saw it last week. Now, Tennessee wasn't pressing the issue much either in the second half of that game, but didn't give up a ton of explosives last week when you absolutely could have. Hard to get a read on this one. Florida with a much tougher schedule. FSU finding just ways to lose games, especially on the road this season where Florida State is winless. Florida State has not won a road game all year long. So since I'm down the middle, don't know where to go with this one, you guys know where I go with that. That's when the bias takes over. That's when the orange and blue glasses come on. When I'm pretty close to even, gonna go with the Gators here. I don't feel great about it. Not at all. But a 20-17 for no other reason than FSU hasn't won on the road. That's pretty much where I'm at with this one. There's not a lot separating these teams in my mind. So I'll go with the home team. Go with the Gators. 2017. We'll see what it means in the end. But I'm not expecting a beautiful game here. I would like to see, we haven't got to see it this year, if Florida gets off to a great start, up by a couple scores early. What does that do? I mean, the swamp will be rocking for sure. Can you just make it easier on yourself a little bit? Can you? Not a lot of confidence in that regard, but last game of the season, we're going to enjoy one more game. Hopefully enjoy one more game. Certainly we'll enjoy the vibes. Maybe we'll have a coach who we think our next coach will be by then. So it could be a great day. No matter what. And see how it all plays out. Going with the Gators barely in this one. Oh, let's see. All right, coming back to surround some comments. Somebody that I've answered, Go Tigers, LSU, of course, right here. Who is y'all's second and third choice? I put in there earlier in the episode. With some of the dominoes falling, if it's not Kiffin, then with the way things have worked out, probably would say Jon Sumrall, Jed Fish. Just the way it's looking right now, without much coming out from Florida in that regard. And like I said, the Sumrall name has come out a little bit more in the last few days. With Fish, haven't really gotten much out of that. I think from his side, yes, he would take it, he would do it. Haven't heard much on the Florida angle in that one. If you're old Bast, if you're talking to me, I don't know. I'm assuming you are, but you could be talking to other members in here. He says, "Did you see most recent Zach article?" I've been on here for the last hour or so, and then some episode prep, so I probably haven't, unless it was before today. So I don't know. Go to Zach Alberverdi tweet. Okay, here we go. Did we have something? That comes from Coach Guns one more time. So let me pull up the old Twitter. Alberverdi, let's see. I didn't even check my phone. I don't even know where my phone is. That's what I'm doing here. Okay, sources do not expect Florida does not expect to land Ole Miss coach Lane Kiffin and is closing in on other targets. Okay. In recent days, sources said Kiffin erratic communication. I've heard something about that. And behavior has led Florida to think he may be more interested in other options. Okay. We'll see. I don't have any messages on that. Certainly trust Zach for what he can pull out here in this regard. So we will see. I mean, that's live as we're on air right now. So that means I'll certainly have to go and chase around some things, but certainly trust Zach's reporting here as far as that goes. Yeah, so first half of this episode may not mean anything as far as where we're at with this. I will probably go till about noon here, maybe. I want to go watch some football too. But I will say, as far as the communication goes now, I will say, as far as that goes, the communication let me see the best way to put that. I guess on that's why I said I don't even know if a decision has come. Now, maybe this means it has, but a decision either way. Like, can't get a straight answer about LSU, can't get a straight answer about Ole Miss, can't get a straight answer about Florida. I have heard that. So maybe that means he's made a decision and won't tell Florida, won't say anything to Florida. Could certainly mean that. Or, like, if you can't get an answer, I'm sure Florida would love an answer. You know, like I said, by tomorrow, if that was a timeline. And if you just can't get an answer, I figured Florida would play the game. But maybe it's a good indication from Florida's side that, okay, well, if he's not giving us an answer, maybe it's not us. Maybe the conversation was much better to begin with. Sorry, guys. Leading you to believe you were in this race more so than you thought. And then now maybe communication, like I said, the erratic communication angle to this, not hearing what you want to hear or not hearing anything. I would assume not hearing what I don't know. I don't know how that would. Because I think from my angle, erratic is probably the best way to put it. because communication hadn't stopped. I won't fully believe that. But there we go. There's something I don't bad podcasting and if I have to sit and chase around stuff right now. So like I said, first half of this episode may not mean anything in the end then. But okay. We'll see. Zach Goodall somebody shared it in the Discord right here. He's calling around right now. Could be out of the loop, but no one's presented that info to him. I mean, the ultimate hope here, and just I'll fully admit, this does not look good. Part of this is reaching. I'm just going another angle here. This is probably not the case if this is true. Quote unquote, part of the plan. I think you're probably there. But Zach's got good sources. I do know that. But I'm sure some people could say, "Oh, it's still part of the story." That would be a weird look here. Going this far, was Zach putting his name on that? That would certainly be a reach to me. If it ends up Lane, sure, but that would be weird. That would be weird for it to play out that way. Caleb Copeland says, what about Sumrall? Try to get Weiss Jr. as the OC? Maybe. Could you pull him away from Kiffin? The thing about Sumrall, has had some good offenses in the past at Tulane. Not so much this year. Still a defensive guy. That's what happens when you go live, too. First half of this episode may not mean a thing. Oh, boy. All right, we got a lot of stuff to chase around here after this, huh? I'll leave this episode up. It is what it is at this point. But certainly we'll go ask around. That certainly was not the vibe coming into this morning. And I'll still stand by everything I said with just the silence and all that stuff. I don't think it's really been silence or anything. Without being able to chase some things on my own, like I said, I trust Zach. So he's getting it from somewhere. He's not making it up. Odd that it wasn't a national source coming out, but I think this side of it a good bit. I would have if I saw that storyline, I would have thought at least first it come from a Thamel or somebody like that. But certainly some drama here. Certainly a lot of drama here. Maybe that's why the Sumrall name started coming up. Maybe in the end, LSU and Ole Miss sources were right. I don't think they were fully right on stopping the communication. Erratic, like I said, was probably a good way to put it, but ghosting and all that, nah, you're not getting me with that. You're not getting me with that. All right. Here we go. Go time to watch some football. We'll see. Maybe there's another episode today. Wherever this goes and we get like massive, here's the news that Florida is moving on. So, but that absolutely means I got to go do some digging myself. So let me get off here. We'll see what the rest of the day holds. Certainly a kick there. Certainly a kick to the gut there. But all right, let's get with this. We'll see what happens. That'll do it for this episode of Gators Breakdown. I'm your host, David Waters. You guys can follow me at GatorDave_SEC. Guys and girls out there, thank you for joining me on this episode of Gators Breakdown.